Mpirical provide compelling, interactive learning across a range of delivery options. Live on site, live online, or online anytime, we have a training course that is ideal for you. For a no-obligations chat about your training requirements, contact us at mpirical.com.
Within this first session on private 5G, we're just going to look at some of the key drivers behind private 5G networks. So we'll look to begin with at some of the general concepts. What exactly is private 5G? We'll then look at those key drivers. We'll also consider some use cases, and then we'll look at some of the challenges. So we're not saying for 1 second that 5G is the magical technical solution for private networking. We know that LTE, Wi-Fi and Ethernet are all out there as alternative private network solutions. However, 5G does have its advantages over these other technologies, but it's certainly not without its challenges. So here we have a private 5G network. Now, in the 3GPP's parlance, they've decided to call it a 5G non-public network as opposed to a 5G private network. Now, this private 5G network is designed really to support network services which are directly related to a clearly defined user organization, or maybe even a group of organizations. So there is a subset of entities that will be using this private 5G network, which generally other 5G devices, which might be related to the public network, would not be allowed to use. So here in this case, we could have something like cyber physical control applications, where we have a controlling element of the network which needs the 5G network to provide control signaling to a physical network element such as a robotic arm or something like that. So ultimately that 5G network is providing network connectivity to these end terminals as you would expect. So let's consider some of the key characteristics of this private 5G network. The first one is it could be a combination of virtual and physical elements. So it's highly likely that we're going to have physical RAN elements. So we ultimately need to deploy our RAN nodes around the private 5G physical area. However, things like the core network and even certain elements of the RAN could be and will be virtualized. So they could be virtualized at a data center on premises. They could even be virtualized within the cloud somewhere. So you do have that deployment flexibility, and we know that with respect to the 5G service-based architecture, the control aspects of the 5G core network which would be required for this will be virtualized anywhere. There are several different deployment models. It's possible that whoever owns this private network really does own everything. It owns all of the 5G private network infrastructure. So that's one deployment model. But alternatively, the owner of the network may not actually own the network itself. They could be using some third-party company, maybe a mobile service provider, maybe some kind of infrastructure provider to provide that 5G network for them. So there is deployment flexibility. We've got controlled access for the user equipment, the devices that are actually using that 5G network. So we would have strict control whereby some of our devices will only be allowed to use the private 5G network. Some devices will be allowed to use both the private 5G network and the public 5G network. And then we need to think about control in terms of, well, what about the public devices? We need to make sure that those public devices do not even consider this private 5G network as a potential network. Because even dealing with unsolicited requests for things like registrations are going to tie up resources within the private network. So we don't want public devices even attempting to register. So we need some kind of control here for the access to the network by our devices. And then finally, as I've already alluded to, we've got this notion of different solution providers. It does not have to be the traditional mobile service provider that goes in and deploys this private 5G network. It could be a vendor from the mobile space. It could be a vendor from the IT space. So there is that flexibility in terms of who you can go to deploy your private 5G network. Now, in terms of other public networks, it is quite possible that our private network does indeed connect into a public network of some description. And this could be based on the specific deployment model in use. But what you can guarantee is that connection will be very secure. So you don't want anything from the public domain being able to necessarily connect to anything within this private 5G network. So there'll be some serious firewall applications in place here to prevent any malicious access. So this is the general concept behind what private 5G is, and in later videos we will elaborate on the different deployment models available. In terms of the key drivers,
Need to know more? Why not visit our store, where you can choose from over 200 hours of video-based training. Alternatively, you can contact us to discuss any specific training requirements you may have.